All right. So without further ado, we can begin. So first up, we're gonna have Board Kuvas. He is Associate Dean in Leadership and Organizational Psychology, and he will be speaking to you a bit about the PhD program. So the floor is yours. You're muted, Board.
Just unmuted. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Jared. I'm just going to give some short basic information about the economic side of the program. And of course, you should feel free to ask questions using the Q&A or the chat function. So first, it's a 4-year program where you typically during the first 2 years, you take mandatory and elective and specialization courses. In addition to working with your courses, which are, I would say, more like seminars where you participate actively together with the professors. You also work with refining or changing your research proposal. In my 2 decades of working with PhD students, I have never seen a research proposal that actually looks almost not closely to the final dissertation. So the research proposal is typically something that we look at in order to see whether you are able to write academically, whether you are familiar with the basic literatures, and so on. So after between 1.5 and 2.5 years, you have something we call a pre-doctoral disputation. This is typically something that you do not fail. It's a work in progress where we bring in international scholars and scholars from abroad typically to have a second opinion on your research problem before you gather most of your data. It's also important, I think, that you know that we don't require that you have fixed topics or even research problems. So that is pretty much up to you and your interests. Having said that, especially in terms of the topic chosen, I would say that you might have a look at the different departments' websites to check out whether there are a sufficient number of people who are working within the same topic as you're interested in. Because when we are picking supervisors, we want them to really know the topic that you are interested in. When it comes to supervision, you typically have a main supervisor, and you also do have a chance to have a co-supervisor. You can be sure that the main supervisor has experience of successfully supervising PhD students, and they typically have had to publish regularly in top journals. So the academic quality of supervisor would not be a problem. Your final dissertation would typically, I would say, across the 3 different specializations, consist of 3 to 4 papers or articles. When I meet PhD students for the first time, I typically say that of the 3 or 4 papers, at least one of them should have an interesting enough research problem, a contribution of high magnitude, and particularly research design data that are sufficient for you to send at least one of the papers to a top journal in the field. That doesn't mean that we expect that you actually get published in one of the very few top journals, which typically in my field is about 5 to 6 journals. I guess it's pretty much the same in strategy and marketing. And that is because approximately only 5% of the papers or manuscripts sent to those journals are actually published. but it should have a quality that you could be expected. But of course, you need to be lucky with the reviewers, with the editor, and so on. But the basic information, I think, is that we want you to aim for top quality research. Another thing that may be special about our program, especially compared to US, where they typically take in a lot of students, don't pay them enough so they can live on the wage. We take in relatively few, and our ambition is to make the best out of each and every candidate. So even if we fail in recruitment, meaning that we take in students that we, after a year or two, think that, we shouldn't have accepted that one. We really try to make the best out of it because we want every one of you to succeed handing in a good dissertation so that you can apply for jobs all across the globe. I can now speak for my own specialization, but I'm sure this is also the case for marketing and strategy. But typically, at our department, we look upon PhD students not as much as students, but as younger colleagues, meaning that we work closely with them. They are not used as slaves, doing only grading, for instance. So we try to involve every PhD students in what we do, both socially and academically. And I think that's basically what I had to say. So please feel free if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Board. So I hope you all have, your brains are working and you're thinking about what questions you may have. So please feel free to put any questions you may have into the Q&A, just to take a quick summary of what has come through so far. So one of the questions we had was, when is the application deadline for the next intake? And that is February 1st. So mark your calendars. Then next up, we have a question asking about how often are PhD scholarships offered per year. So we're just going to park that for a second because it will be answered a little bit later on by one of our other presenters, right? And we had another question from Marcelo asking, well, if we need to submit a research proposal for the application. So just to confirm, the answer is yes. That was precisely what we were talking about, because it is an important metric by which we evaluate all.
Yeah. Can I add something about the research proposal?
Definitely.
Yeah, I also mentioned it when I spoke earlier, but I think it's important that you know that if you have a research proposal, of course, you typically would stay within the same type of topic as the one you hand in when you apply. But you're not forced to work on exactly the same research problems, because these research problems that you now submit will typically change a lot during the first 2 years. So we look for your ability to write academically, to be familiar with the literature. But you will not be forced to work on the particular research problems or research questions that you hand in together with the application.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
We have another question. So does one really have to have a Master of Science as opposed to a Master of Arts? What?
I'm not sure whether that might be an administrative question, Maya.
Well, it depends. This varies from country to country, how the systems are. In Norway, we don't have Master of Art. We mostly have Master of Science or an MBA. So I would suggest that this person applies for the program. We can have a look on the diploma and the grades and which courses the person has taken, and then we can evaluate the application. But main rule is that you have to have a master thesis, especially for the specialization leadership and organization, where board is responsible, because you need to have those skills. You need to have also taken courses in methods. That is very important.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say as well. I think it said a relevant Master of Science, which of course could be a Master of Art, depending on the type of specialization you have had and the courses. But the point is, we cannot say in advance whether your Master of Science or Master of Arts qualifies, because we typically have committees in the department that look at your educational background. And if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, because I mean, if you only have natural science courses, you would typically not. That would not be judged as relevant at our department, but it could have been in some of the other specializations.
Okay, so yeah, we get in a stream of questions. Thank you so much. I'm going to just try to go through them as much as possible. So some of them I may skip over because it's more relevant to another part when the Maya from the administration sort of takes the floor. So I will hop over some, but in terms of what's relevant for you, board, one of the questions that came in was, well, do we need to find the supervisor ourselves, or is it the committee's job to assign the supervisor for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. You will be assigned a supervisor. Sometimes you have to work with me in the beginning because as the associate dean, because sometimes you change your research problems quite a bit during the first 2 years. And if I doesn't fit as the main supervisor, then we find one of my colleagues. So, but from you start, during the last 2 or 3 weeks, you will be assigned a supervisor.
Okay. Next up, so we have a question from Jill. You talked about courses in the first year, which will be more in a seminar fashion. Are there going to be exams or papers which are graded for those courses as well?
That depends on both the specialization and the type of courses. Some courses are main courses. There you typically have more students. I guess Ionis can talk about that later, I guess 25 or something. But typically for the specialization courses at our department, it would be between 6 to 12 people. So they'll be more seminar-like. Since I'm working also with motivation, with performance management and issues like that, I grade papers as pass or fail. But in order to get a pass, it should be really good. But I'm more interested. So in my 2 courses, I provide a feedback to each and every student that pretty much looks like if you send it to a journal or to a research conference. So I write a review that you can learn from, and then you can revise and resubmit your paper. And if you do as I ask from you in my review, you will typically get a pass. But pass or fail or grades, that varies from course to course and department to department.
Okay. And we just have a question about how many credits per semester would the candidates have to take?
I guess it's around 30 because it's 60 in total. Typically, we talk about 8 to 10 courses, and sometimes you would take additional courses online or at other institutions, depending on if you want to have specialized courses with your statistics, particularly suitable for your research design. But the point is that the course portfolio is structured, and the idea is that, of course, you will become a specialist within your own topic. But as you know, most of us in academia, we teach half of the time and we do research half of the time. And for the teaching part, it's important that we know something else than our main topic, which is part of the dissertation. So you will have a broader background, being able to have a sort of a broader view and more in-depth knowledge, not only in the topic of your dissertation, but beyond that.
Okay, so we have some other questions still outstanding, but at this juncture, we're going to move on to our next panelist. So I'd like to invite Ioannis to to share his experiences. He's a current PhD candidate here at BI. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope that all of you can hear me. I am Yanis. I'm second year PhD student in the marketing department of BI. I come from Greece, and before being to Norway for my PhD, I have also studied in Greece, Netherlands, and Italy. So I have an experience of, I can compare and I can give you some insights that you might find interesting, useful, and you cannot find it online on the websites of different universities. And those are related to both your life as your life in BI as a student, but your life in BI as an employee as well. So let me start with a question. I have prepared some questions. I have made also some small answers to those questions, and you can also ask me based on those things if you need something more specific, or if I don't cover something that you find interesting, please tell me. So how is it to be a PhD student at BI? So the first thing that you need to know is that at BI you will be both a student and an employee. And let's start with what means to be a student and employee. First of all, and it is, I believe, very important for all of you, is that you will be self-sufficient in terms of money and in terms of salary. So first of all, you will not need to pay any fees for the program, for the courses that you will take, for anything. And also you will have a salary that is enough to have a good life in Norway. And I see in the chat someone spoke about family. I think that you can manage also if you have like if you are married or if you have a child. I think that you can also still go with this salary in the beginning before your partner finds a job. And apart from this, I believe it is very important, because in many places that you do not succeed to have a funding, you try a lot to have funding, to have a scholarship. This breaks your self-esteem. You feel very much dependent, and you might also feel that your research is not valuable. This doesn't happen at BI, because from the first moment, people really want to invest on you, and they saw it also financially. What is your position then? If you are an employee, what does this mean? It means that you need to participate in a number of meetings or activities, like dinners or seminars of the department. But it's not something really to make you think that you will not have time as a student. So for example, this means that you have, let's say, 2 hours per week of doing tasks for the university, or doing tasks related to your employee ID, but nothing more than that. And when it comes to teaching, because you might also think what means teaching at BI, from my experience in the marketing department, and I have also asked other people before coming to this webinar, it is about imagining that you will be a TA, a teaching assistant, for a course of around 50 students per semester. So 1 course per semester. This is like to figure out how much it will be. And 1 course, it means, let's say, 3 hours or 4 hours per week. And then you might have also exam, you might also have something else related to that course. And when you are also an employee, it means something also very important, that all the facilities, the administrative facility, the library, the IT department, everything at BI behaves and approaches you as an employee. So they respect you as an employee, and they treat you as an employee. So if you have a problem, they will help you as someone that is important, as part of a community of BI, and not as a student that pays some fees and next year will not be with them. So this is super important, very important, and you see it in your everyday life. So what about being a foreigner at BI? So if you're not from Norway, and I believe many of you are not from Norway, how is it life at BI? BI is a multinational university by default. In the marketing department, for example, and this also occurs in the other department, but I just speak with my experience, so I can tell you from my particular case, we are around 50 to 50% in regards to faculty. So 50% is Norwegians and 50% is from other countries. Also in terms of I mean, if you're also interested in terms of gender, it is similar distribution, 50% is male, 50% female. And in terms of PhD students, we also have a great amount of people coming from abroad. I can estimate that around 80% to 90% are coming from all over the world. We have people from Asia, we have people from Europe, we have people visiting people from Africa, from South America or US. So at BI, you will feel that you are part of the community, independently of where you come from, independently of who you are and what you believe. You are just a part of the university, and this is how people will approach you and how people will behave towards you as a part of the community, as a part of the university. Some people asked for the courses also before. So remember that this is not a class-based PhD. The courses are there to help you develop some skills. So there are some, also Board spoke about this, there are some courses that they help you with more, let's say, more like research tools. So not that much on content, but more on how to use specific research techniques to do your research. And these are mandatory courses, and they will also help you navigate in your field, because this is for example my case, but also for other people, that you see things that you never knew before. So you come to know new topics, new methods, and that might also inspire you. And then you can select topics there are some free CTS, for example, in marketing, and you can take those free CTS on topics that you are interested. For example, in my case, I will take them hopefully next year that everything is again open, in social psychology. So I have left some credits to take in a specific field that I want. And because it is not a class-based PhD, even in the first year that you will have a supervisor, you will be able to work on your research. So even if you have some courses, you will have enough time to start working on your research. Another question that you might have is, when would you receive supervision? Supervision starts from day one. And for my case, it started before day one, because I spoke to my supervisor some days after I received the official admission at BI. So supervision is not an issue. And even if you are questioning how it would be the relationship with the supervisor, I will tell you that you need to you have to expect that supervisor at BI is a mentor for you. You will meet once or twice per week, and you will discuss a lot of things related to research, on how to proceed with the PhD, what courses to take. But even if you have a problem, you can speak with ADs, or associate deans. You can speak to the department chairs, and they will help you, because the reality is that they invest on you, and they want you to find the best option, the best solution to any problem that you might have. In regards to funding, because I also saw in the chat a question in regards to collaborating with corporations. From BI, you will not need to spend your own money, your own salary for research. You will receive research funding from the department, but you will also be able, with your colleagues or alone, to apply for grants at a school, at a national or at an international level. And we have many colleagues also in my department, in other departments, that they have achieved to receive a great amount of grants and money to support the research. So yeah, more or less this was from me. And when I have BI in my mind, and when you have it in your mind, so you need to think that BI is a place that has excellent researchers. But the main difference from other top places across the globe is that it is promoting equality among people. So all of the PhD students, we are just part of the community, as our professors, as senior people, and we are treated like this. And it's also a place of great support. So whenever you have a problem, people here are really available and really there to help you. So this is my experience, and I will be happy to answer if you have particular questions.
Thank you so much, Yanis.
Thank
So I hope you all got a good sense of what it's like to be a PhD candidate. If you have any questions specific to Yanis that you want to ask, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. We can try to get to them. But just since we taken a little bit of break before the transition, one of the questions that came in, well, how many research papers do we need to write to finish the PhD program? So if someone could jump in and comment.
Yeah, I would say, and Johannes, correct me if I'm wrong, but typically at our department, it would be like 3 or 4. And they need to be what we say publishable, so they don't need to be published. And even if they're published, the final defense committee would still make its own judgment. So, but I would say typically 3 to 4, depending on whether you're the sole author, the single author of one of them. But typically, most papers you will have co-authors. It can be your supervisors, it can be someone else.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Something else that came through as well. They were asking, well, basically, do you have to have a list of publications as an applicant? What if you don't have any?
If you come straight from a Master of Science or a Master of Arts, of course we don't expect you to have any published papers, but you might send in a working paper based on your Master of Science thesis. So you don't have to have any publication. But of course, if you've been a research assistant for 5 or 6 years, I would typically say that we expect that you have had something in writing, published in a book chapter or whatever. But if you don't have it, you can explain it in your application letter. And if you're selected for an interview, we can talk further about it.
Okay, and one last thing before we go over to Maya. Anna was asking, well, is it possible to participate in other research projects within the department apart from the dissertation project?
Yeah, of course. But if you excel on your progress, I, as a supervisor, would say yes. But I make sure that the main priority is the dissertation. So if I have a PhD student that is sort of have an okay progression in terms of developing his or her dissertation, and they ask me to work on other stuff, I would say no, because the first priority is the dissertation and the articles that makes up the dissertation.
Okay, thank you so much, Board. So now we're going to move on to our representative from the PhD administration. So we have the lovely Maya with us. Thank you. Floor is yours.
Thank you. So my name is Maya. I work in the PhD administration. I have taken some notes when I was preparing what to tell you, and I've also been going through the questions and answers. And I see a lot of the questions are repeating, so I have noted things down. I'll start replying in a way while explaining. First and most important, you noted down that the deadline is 1st of February, and we are strict with the deadline. The application portal will close after that date. We don't accept applications by email. So you have to go on bi.no and find the open positions in these 3 specializations that you saw in the poll. I saw it came a question about economics and some questions about finance. We have PhDs in these 2 specializations, but they will come next year. They will be announced during November 2021 and with a deadline 1st of February 2022. The ones that that will apply now with the deadline 1st of February will begin during August this year. That also replies on the question, came several, that you're in the last year of your master studies, and if you can apply or not. The answer is yes, you can apply, and it's quite common. Every year we have students, PhD candidates starting that they have taken, that when they applied, they were doing their master. However, if you get an offer and you're not done with your master education, it will be a conditional offer, meaning that by August, by the start of the program, you have to complete your degree and defend your thesis and show us a confirmation. That I took, how often that I wrote, how often do you take in PhD applications? We have this standard once a year. So next round will be finance economics, February 2022. However, from time to time, there are big research projects that want to employ PhD candidates, and they can come during the year. It's not that common, it's not that often, but we cannot know. We cannot tell you from now when they will come. So you have to follow the webpage regularly if you cannot get in now. There were some questions about different documents. I do know that on the webpage, BI.no, it's written about many different documents, but you should stick to the list that is written on the application portal. Example for this is the GMAT and GRE tests. They are written on the webpage because they are relevant for the specialization in finance and economics, but they are not relevant for these three specializations. So if they're not on the list in the application portal where the position is announced, you don't need to upload it. There was a question about foreign grades that are not like the Norwegian system. We do evaluate these applications. Of course, we have experts. It's called the Norwegian Organ for Quality Education, which evaluate foreign degrees and foreign grades and how is the grading. They know how it is the grading system in every country. So if we are not sure, we contact them. So you will get a proper evaluation. We will know which grade, or some use numbers, and what is that equivalent to our average B. There was a question if B is a must on a master thesis. The answer is you need to have B in average. That being said, the master thesis usually is a lot of study points. It can be 30, it can be 45. So that will eat up in a way the average, but still we are interested in the average. Great. That is pretty much a Norwegian regulation. Every Norwegian university college has the same requirement. Yes, another document that you are asking is the milestone plan. It is written on the website because for some projects it is relevant, but not for these three specializations. You will, however, have a milestone plan when you get an offer, when you start on the PhD, when you start working with your supervisor, then you will have a more detailed plan how the 4 years will develop. But you don't need to think about it now and send it in. Other documents, diploma supplement. I saw a lot of questions about diploma supplement. This is a document that is very common in, or it's a requirement in European universities. It's part of the Bologna process, and it's part of the diploma once you're done with your education. But we do know that this is not common in other continents, and therefore the diploma supplement is not an obligatory field in the application form. If you're able to get this document from your university, or some sort of explanation about how the degree is set up, that will be good, but it's not a requirement. If you don't have the document, it's fine. Diploma supplement is an explanation about the education in your country. And exactly this, what does it mean to have a master in this and that, how high it is, how long, how many years it took you. Is that type of document, but as I said, it's not obligatory. Verification document, we got several questions about that. Yes, you have to download the form, fill it out and sign it and upload it. With that, you allow us to check that your documents are authentic and that we are checking. And we're checking with your institution. So we need to have this document that you agree that we can check. Yes, resident in Norway part-time, came some questions about that. So if you get accepted, if you get a PhD at BI, then you're employed. And you cannot do it from a distance. You have to move to Norway and be here. And you will have an office space at BI. It's important that you're part of an academic environment, that you sit closely with your supervisor, with the associate dean, that you cooperate with other PhD candidates. That is also part of the whole learning. PhD is not only to sit at home and read and write. It's also to be part of networks. We have international networks, we have researcher schools, and so on and so on. I know that many of you have contacted us by email and have contacted Bori as well, and are writing now in the comments about I have this background, can I apply, and or can you help me write a better proposal? Can you help me write a better application? I have to say that you have to see this as a job application. We want to give everyone an equal chance. We want to evaluate everyone. So we cannot give personal guidance about how to write a proposal and what should be in the proposal or what you should do to get a higher chance. So everyone is treated equally. So that is very important. Yes, I think that I have now gone through all the questions that I had written.
I think there is one, Maya. There was at least one question about a person who were going to graduate in August. And the answer to that question is that that is fine. So if we accept you on the condition that you will get a B average in your total grades after you have graduated. So we typically take in a lot of students who are still who are completing their Master of Science as they apply.
Yeah, recommendations letter. Yeah, that I also noted down. Sorry, Jared. Recommendation letters. You can do it in two ways. You can, if you already have the recommendation letters. This varies from country to country and traditions to traditions. So if you already have the letters, if the reference person has given it to you, you can upload them on the application portal. If not, you can ask the person giving you the reference to send us an email. The email addresses are written on the announcement page. And the same people that have access to the application has access to that email, no one else. So that is confidential.
Okay. Yep, so I see we have a number of questions. Thank you so much, Maya. I'm pretty sure we have some more questions for you because I see them keep rolling in. So in terms of the question with respect to the recommendation letter, someone was asking, Laura was asking, well, what is exactly required here, like in terms of the structure? Can you all speak to what is required in the recommendation letter exactly?
We don't have a format or length about the recommendation letter. It is written on the webpage, minimum two people. What we do say is that it's important that is someone that knows, that is academic person that knows you. So that can usually be a supervisor, someone that you worked with during your master or afterwards. If you don't have that, you can use employer, for example. Yeah, but it's most commonly we would expect that someone that knows your academic skills can evaluate your academic skills.
Okay. In terms of, I see a couple of people were asking in terms of the number of positions actually available. Is there any information with respect to that?
For now, there are 3 available positions in each specialization. So 3 in leadership organization, 3 in marketing, and 3 in strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship. However, due to Corona, we have gotten an expansion of the budget, but this is not yet decided how much and to which department. That will depend on the applications and the associate deans. So we say minimum 3, but it might be openings for more.
Yeah. Okay, and with respect to the recommendation letters, is there any deadline on when they should send in their recommendations to you all?
As I said at the beginning, the application deadline is 1st of February, and this is a rule for all the documents. Okay. Then the portal will close, and then the committee will start going through the applications. So we have to stick to that date.
Okay. All right.
can I just add something since I've been an associate dean for a number of years? I don't think any recommendation letter has been highly important in terms of our decisions. So someone typically overvalues or pay too much attention to recommendation letters. So I think what you can provide through your grades, of course, and your research proposal is much more important.
Okay, Board, while I have you there, so besides the third semester opportunity, are there any other chances to get more exposure to research? For example, being a research assistant, especially to utilize the summer break?
I'm not sure I fully understood the question. Can you repeat
so
it?
we had a question coming in.
Yeah.
If there were any other chances to get more exposure to research, for example, being a research assistant, and really utilize the summer break. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but I would say that the 25% of your workload is pretty much like being a research assistant. I don't think we have any paid programs during summertime. I guess that's probably because you're paid well enough on your salary. And secondly, most Norwegians, even professors, like to have July as a holiday. So I don't think we have any formal programs. Do you know, Maya?
No, but what I said at the beginning, when you take PhD at BI, you're employed. And in Norway, when you're employed, you get only 5 weeks of vacation. So don't see this for this PhD as a master's, a bachelor, where you have the whole summer off so you can get extra job. You are employed and in the company. So in June, in August, you are working. You have those 5 weeks of vacation. And there are also some rules which I'm no expert in. There is some minimum weeks that you must take in Norway. We appreciate vacation, taking time off. So actually the employer, in this case BI, can force you to take vacation. Though one thing that it is very important, and I don't think that anyone touched upon this topic, is these positions are for 4 years. But that includes 3 years for the PhD project itself, the courses, the papers, the research gathering data, and 1 year is something that we call the obligatory work, and that goes throughout those whole years. It's not one separate year. It's 25% of your time. And maybe Boy can explain more about that.
Yeah. I think it's important to note that I at least I can talk about my department. We don't see the 25% as sort of cheap labor. So when Ionis were talking about teaching, it's not filling 25% of a position. It's more like training people in learning how to teach. And we also have our own teaching programs that are pedagogical in nature. So I think it's more important to develop PhD students in terms of both research and teaching rather than looking upon PhD candidates as cheap labor to fill in for ourselves. So we typically provide feedback when they're teaching assistants, when they're starting teaching on a topic closely related to the PhD topic and so on. So at least that's what we are trying. Johannes, you may have something to say.
So I think, okay, it depends always on the department and your supervisor and the needs of the department in terms of courses, what you are going to do. Because I know that, for example, some professors have more courses and you are assigned also more teaching load. Other people have less. but I would say that in most cases, from what I know, when you feel ready to teach or to share a course with a professor at BI, you will be able to do so. You will have experience, hands-on experience when you feel ready to do this. So I know, for example, that third-year student and fourth-year students, for instance, may teach like 20% of the course. And they also take now, there is a pedagogical course that helps them also develop skills in terms of how to do teaching. And from what I have heard, this is important also in the job market after the end of the PhD, because in many other places, you do not take teaching as a, like here is a bit formal and it's a bit structured, and this can be proven also when you go to the job market. And this is something useful from what I've heard the last years,
Yeah,
last 2 years.
and I also make sure that our PhD candidates doesn't get too much teaching or grading and so on, because it's my responsibility that they complete their dissertations and that they can focus on research. So sometimes I have to arrest the department head or the administrative staff at our department and say he or she need to focus on his or her dissertation. So please don't give him or her too much teaching or other tasks.
Okay, and I just see some questions coming in with respect to the actual proposal. Just so maybe you can speak a bit on it. So one aspect of this question is in terms of, well, it's what if your proposal is not 100% related to your master thesis, for example? What happens there? And another thing is, well, what if the proposal that you're thinking of writing doesn't exactly correlate with any of the listed research projects that are on the BI website?
Yeah, as I said, we have a few examples of what our PhD students are currently working on, but we don't have any topics or projects you need to fit in. So it's up to you what interests you. And it's not a problem if you have another topic than you did in your master science thesis. But as I said, it's important that you know that you're familiar with the relevant literatures. So and that's why it typically helps to have fresh experience from a field, typically based on a Master of Science. But you can also have other experiences. You could have been working as a research assistant with other topics. So we don't check whether the topic is the same as the Master of Science thesis, and it really doesn't matter. The proposals stands on their own.
Okay, one of the questions that we're getting is essentially asking about, well, when would the decisions be out? Like at what point in the year? So when would those who have been accepted be notified?
We've had a discussion about the different meetings. We have one meeting March 11 with the PhD committee, where every associate dean meets together with the main dean. And as I recall, our ambition is to make the final decisions on March 11. But that may be too early, depending on the number of applicants we receive. So
the next meeting is the next meeting is 15th of April. So
when in April?
15th.
Yeah. So
15th.
yeah, and I think yeah. So
it's more realistic.
Yeah, that's more realistic. So after the meeting, April 15, we will typically notify you, or the administrative department may also notify you. But typically, we have been interviewing you. At our department, we also do short personality tests before the interviews. And I will typically send an email to those who will get an offer. Because I already typically know the people via the interviews. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I say something in regards to the topics of the research proposal? So I think that for all of you that you want to write a research proposal and you are interested, because I see on the chat that you put different topics. So the best way of doing it is to think of a topic. For instance, I have seen twice or three times in the chat, the luxury, something related to luxury marketing, for example. So you can see what approach do you want to take, for instance. If you are interested in how luxury consumption is influenced by the identity of the consumer, then you need to check, for example, we have people working on identity issues, identity consumption. So if you want to take another perspective of luxury consumption, that might be how you can make a luxury a consumption experience, let's say, more how to create a luxury experience. We also have people working on experiential things in marketing. We also have people working in retail. So you need to consider your topic, whether it fits with what people in the department is doing. So this is my advice before preparing any kind of application.
Yeah, and if I see a proposal where they, let's say they have picked the wrong main theoretical background, that doesn't need to be a problem, because we can talk about that in the interviews. So I would typically say, okay, so you chose classical expectancy theory as the main motivational theory here. So are you aware that a lot of things has happened in 1964? Have you heard about self-determination theory, for instance? Would you be willing to familiarize yourself with more contemporary theories and so on? So, and if people then say no, then they will not get an offer.
Yep. One of the questions that came in was, well, is it possible to apply to more than one PhD program?
Yes, of course. Several people have research interest that lies between or covers both. For instance, the strategy, entrepreneurship and innovation department, and our department, the leadership and organizational behavior department. So you can apply both. And maybe even, I mean, I'm doing a lot of research within org psych myself. So sometimes, I mean, for me, consumer behavior is just a subfield of organizational psychology, social psychology, and of course, I always will protest towards that. But we have fields, we have subfields, we have different streams, which is perfectly okay.
Okay, and someone was asking, well, what is the role of work experience, for example? Does it hold any additional value in the PhD application?
It might be, depending on the type of experience and how you can use that kind of experience. So we have quite a few, or have had now. We have at least 2 candidates with like 7-8 years of experience. Some of them have learned work discipline better than the fresh candidates, and they may have some disadvantages in terms of being less familiar with the contemporary part of their topics, more novel theories, things that have happened for the last 8 or 5 years. So work experience can be good, but it's not a requirement. And yeah, and sometimes it may be an advantage in terms of getting access to organizations to collect data. But at the same time, I mean, I like fresh Master of Science students that are really into the research ideas. So age, work experience, typically it wouldn't speak against you or for you. But of course, you can try to frame your own work experience to make it an asset.
Okay, and just a follow-up on being applying to more than one position. Essentially, Marcel was asking, well, do you need like separate recommendation letters, or can you just use the same recommendation letters?
Yeah, of course. But I would suggest that you try to write 2 proposals.
Yes. Okay. So yes.
And if you get an offer for both departments, you won't get double pay. So you have to choose.
Of course. Okay. So a question with respect to Norwegian language classes being included in the PhD program or available at the university for foreign students.
Jonis, do you remember how it was for you?
So yes, they cover 4 levels, and that means like this is if you take this A, B, C, D. No, it is A1, A2, B1, B2, C1. This system of language knowledge. I think they covered at they cover A1, A2, and till B1 or B2. So this is what is paid by the university. But in my case, we have the COVID situation, so the class is stopped. So it was this situation. But normally they cover. But for those that they want to come in Norway and they don't speak Norwegian, they need to know that it's not. It is useful because you are in the country that they speak Norwegian, but you can manage all of your tasks in English. And as I told you before, here the feeling is that of a community, that you will not be excluded because of language. So
Yeah, I mean, academically, you don't need Norwegian, but I think in your private life, it's a good thing to be able to have some simple. I mean, when you're in the shop, when you meet your neighbors, it's okay to say hey in Norwegian and ha det bra. That's goodbye. I mean, to socialize. But academically, Norwegian doesn't matter that much, so or at all actually.
What I can add on this with language, for those of you who are a little bit skeptical or scared, how it will be to move to Norway? BI is using Chamber of Commerce, it's like relocation services. And they are experts in also in about taxes, about residence permit, and temporarily and then permanent residence permit renewals. Also now with Corona, it's a bit relevant to tell. They also help with if you need to be in a quarantine. That is the rules by the Norwegian government. Last year we had students in this situation that had to be in a special hotels and accommodated.
Yeah.
And also while they were in a quarantine, we streamed all the lectures online. So they didn't miss out on anything those 2 weeks.
Yeah, and regarding the Corona situation, I think Norway it's now the safest country in the world to stay. So, and of course, but maybe this is also relevant for some of you, depending on how much you know Norway. But I mean, Oslo has a great location. I mean, it's an hour by airplane when we're allowed to fly again to most places in Europe. But of course, we do have 4 seasons. So if you hate snow more than your mother-in-law or father-in-law, I mean, you probably should think twice. But having 4 seasons is wonderful if you come from California or other places in Africa where you don't have it. It would be a lovely experience. So the contrast effect between the winter time, the spring, the summer is just a beautiful experience. And maybe Maya and Ionis can add to that, and even Jared.
Yeah,
we all can do it.
I think so. Yeah. Definitely.
And I have to say, and Oslo is not the worst. I think it's the best place in Norway. I have lived in other city in Norway where it's far more snow and colder and worse climate. So I think that Oslo is has a quite mild European climate.
Yeah,
I would say. One thing about the Corona, just to finish up. Another thing that BI did for the active PhD candidates is that if every PhD candidate got extension on their contract due to the coronavirus, because when the coronavirus hit Norway, we had to switch to home offices, and that of course delayed the progress of many of our PhD candidates. And unlike other universities in Norway, where one had to apply to get extension and many were rejected, BI gave extension to all PhD candidates, which is a very important signal to have in mind that we do care for our PhD candidates.
And if you get pregnant and get a child during your PhD, the politically correct thing is to applaud you. The good thing for you is that you will get a welfare permission paid, so you won't lose any money. So you have a maternity or leave if you're a father for, is it almost a year, or maybe it's a year?
Yeah, 49 weeks in total. So it's
Yeah.
almost a year. Mm.
Yeah. So, and it's important to note that this has nothing to do with me, but almost every female PhD student at our department get at least one child during the PhD process, and I'm not involved in that.
Yes, and then you will get an extension. If
Yeah,
I don't know if this was clear for all of you. So if you get a child and those 49 weeks, you will get salary, and then your PhD program will be automatically extended for that 1 year.
Yeah. So as a professor, I think we spoil people, but that's a good thing as well.
All right. We still have a number of questions in the chat, and a lot of them seem very case specific. So we implore you to reach out, to the MSc administration. I believe you can contact us all at info@bi.no. So just forward your questions there if you want something answered about your specific situation. So unfortunately, this is all the time we had for today.
Yeah. Can I just add, Jared, that they can also find the associate deans for the marketing department and the strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship department at the website. So they can also ask them if they have academic questions about the different specializations.
Okay, yes. And additionally, documents that you need, as was mentioned multiple times during tonight, they are available online with what you require for the application for each program. Should you have any additional questions, please reach out to us. We are happy to help you. Just like to thank our panelists for joining us this evening. Did an excellent job fielding the many questions that we got. And then most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you who took your time today to just spend some time, find out a bit more. And we really look forward to seeing you here in Oslo with us in August. So that's it from us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and wish you all the best. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.